Welcome back to Bay Sunday. Our next guest is here to tell us about his life struggles and public battle of coming out as the first openly gay U.S. ambassador. His memoir tells an intimate story about confronting fears and facing some insecurities in order to do something rather extraordinary for our country. We're honored to introduce Ambassador James C. Hormel. He's the author of Fit to Serve: Reflections on a Secret Life, Private Struggle, and Public Battle to become the first openly gay U.S. ambassador. Ambassador, welcome.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for
Great to have you with us as well. Well, let's tell a little bit about your story. You're born in 1933. You married a woman in the 50s. You had 5 children. You've got quite a brood now with grandkids
Yes,
and great-grandkids and such. When did you come out as a gay man, and why did you do it?
Well, the coming out process was extremely difficult and painful for me, partly because I had tried so hard to live a conventional life, and I had not communicated, or I really hadn't been able to communicate to my wife that I had these other sexual feelings, and so we had a marriage that ultimately collapsed based on a lack of communication and the deception that came out of it. So at that time, I decided that the burden was too much for me to carry, and I started with my brothers. And when they were accepting and supportive, then it made it a lot easier.
Talk about the day you finally, convinced yourself that this was the thing to do, and how liberating that must have been, and what was your family's reaction?
Well, in the mid-1960s, the times were still very challenging for people who were gay, because in most states the criminal laws still sanctioned homosexual activity, and the society just was not prepared to deal with gay people. They had their own myths. Only about maybe 20% of people in the country in the 60s claimed that they knew anyone who was gay. And so what they knew were stories about gay people.
Sure.
And those stories didn't come from gay people.
Do you remember the big cloud that was lifted, though? Did you just feel like, oh, my goodness, I can start living the life I want to live?
Oh, it was, yes. Actually, I had been living in Chicago. I moved to New York. I started studying art and doing other things that were far from the beaten path that I had followed in law and academic administration, and I started exploring myself in a way that I hadn't ever done before.
And then, in the late 1990s, you're nominated to become the ambassador to Luxembourg under President Clinton's administration. First of all, what a proud moment there, but then you had to be approved and go through that whole situation. And that took a while. I think Dianne Feinstein said something, our senator said something to you. What did she say when you were going through that process?
She said, "Watch out, Jim, they're going to eat you alive."
And it was tough. Some of the senators came out pretty, the Republican right was not so kind.
Well, the title of the book, Fit to Serve, is intended to point out that nobody ever raised an issue about my competence or my qualifications. All they talked about was my sexuality. That was it. And they did whatever they could to taint me as anti-Catholic, for example, which was such an outrageous charge, and that I had commandeered the San Francisco Public Library to carry certain books, which we discovered were actually in the Library of Congress as well. I mean, there were all kinds of phony issues that were raised, but it was really all about my sexuality. And
lastly, there's a picture of you that I've seen on the internet with you and your entire family, the grandkids, the great-grandkids, your 5 children, your ex-wife, as you were sworn in.
Yes.
That must have been a very special day.
Well, it was very special, and I must give enormous credit to my ex-wife for her support. She went out of her way. She wrote a letter to Trent Lott saying if anybody can judge this person's character, I can. And the support that I got from her and from the rest of the family, my children, my grandchildren, it was just really inspiring for me.
Well, it's been quite a journey, and a very interesting one at that. And thanks for sharing with us, Ambassador. I wish you all the best. I know the book came out about 2 or 3 weeks ago, right?
Yes, yes.
All right. Well, full steam ahead.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Happy holidays.
Thanks.
Get a copy of Fit to Serve. Go to your local bookstore or just go online and check it out. Stay tuned. More Bay Sunday coming up right after the break.